I'm 1000% committed.
All right, not a whole lot of marquee matchups this week within the top 25, but there are a few, and I'm going to cover all the top 25 games this week in this video. But what about Oregon and Stanford? Probably the biggest game of the week. That's the game day game this week. Texas Tech and Texas. Texas has looked a little better the last couple of weeks. Texas Tech, high-flying offense. See how that game goes. I'll talk about that one too. What about, what about Michigan versus Nebraska in the Disappointment Bowl? Oh my God, are there two more disappointing teams? Well, Florida State, dumpster fire. And how about Georgia Tech and Clemson? Some of the nerds are calling for Paul Johnson's head on a Pokemon plate. It's not going to get any better this week, I don't think, against Clemson. But I'm going to cover those games and the rest of the games within the top 25 right now. It's Uncle Lou here. Yeah, that's right, it's me, Uncle Lou, and I'm live for you on LouTube today, and thanks for watching. I really appreciate it also, and two. All right, here we go. We're going to do the top 25 preview today. Per usual, this preview video and every preview video that I'm doing during the 2018 college football season is sponsored by the good people over at betnow.eu. There's a link in the description of this video. Click that link, it'll take you over there. They'll take care of all your college football betting needs for this season. They've even given me a promo code to let you guys use. So when you sign up on the site over there, make sure you enter the bonus code Uncle Lou. That's one word, all lowercase letters, Uncle Lou, and they're going to go ahead and give you a 100% bonus on whatever you deposit. Good luck. All right, we got a couple of Friday night games this week involving ranked teams, so I'm going to start there, okay? Up first, you got FAU at Central Florida. Central Florida ranked 16th. They're a 13.5-point favorite in this game. This game comes on 7 o'clock Friday night on ESPN. At the beginning of the year, I think some people had this game circled as one of potentially maybe the best group of 5 matchups all year. Of course, FAU led by Lane Kiffin, considered to be one of the best offensive coaches in America. Some of that luster died off after week 1 when they got absolutely destroyed by Oklahoma. I don't think anyone expected FAU to beat Oklahoma, but they weren't able to move the ball really at all. And I think people were expecting Lane Kiffin's offense at FAU to be a little bit better against Oklahoma than that. Now, they've reeled off a couple of wins since that opening day loss to Oklahoma, and they sit at 2-1. UCF, of course, is undefeated at 2-0. They had a game canceled last week due to the hurricane. I believe that game was against North Carolina. At North Carolina, so they had to cancel that game. So UCF sitting at 2-0. They've looked really, really good, though, in both their games and 2 blowout wins against, well, let's just be real, below average teams. But then again, that's usually who Central Florida plays, given the league and everything that they're in. Central Florida, 13.5-point favorite. This game's at home. I think Central Florida is a much better team than FAU. And I love taking home favorites when it's just under a touchdown number. So 6.5, 13.5, 20.5, whatever the case may be. Give me Central Florida in this one. I'll lay to 13.5 points. All right, also Friday night, a Big Ten matchup here. You got 10th ranked Penn State goes on the road to play at Illinois. This game comes on 9 o'clock over on Fox Sports 1. Penn State, of course, sitting at 3-0. A couple of impressive wins after sort of a sloppy lucky win, really, to open the season at home against App State. Illinois sitting at 2-1. They lost to South Florida. South Florida, not a Power 5 team, but they're one of the best 5 or 6 teams not in the Power 5, right? I mean, you're talking about Central Florida, of course, Boise State, South Florida, right there in that sort of in that mix there. This one's on the road for Penn State. I talk about this all the time. Well, first of all, there's a saying, the PTHD, primetime home dog. Bettors, gamblers, sports bettors love to bet on home underdogs playing on national TV at night for whatever reason. It just seems to be a trend, and a lot of people like to go that way. This is also a Friday night game, and this is something I talk about all the time. A lot of weird things happen when ranked teams go on the road during the week to play an inferior team. Clemson and Syracuse last year. Washington, I think, caught their loss to Arizona State last year on a weekday game. I could list a dozen other examples. The point is, you see some weird things happen. Miami lost to Pitt on a Friday last year. You just see some weird things happen on these weekday games. Illinois, I do not think Illinois is a very good team. The Big Ten in general seems to be pretty bad to me. Penn State, hard to really tell. I mean, they like I mentioned, a head-scratching win against App State week 1. I don't think anybody saw that coming. App State easily could have won that game. Turn around the next week, completely dominate Pitt, a Power 5 team. Then they get another big win last week. A Jekyll and Hyde situation with Penn State, or is App State that good? I don't know. Did they get caught flat-footed week 1? 28 points, though, is a lot to give. I'm going to go with the primetime home dog philosophy here. Penn State will win this game, but give me Illinois, and I'll take those 4 touchdowns. All right, now we're going to move on to the Saturday games. And normally I do these in chronological order. I start with the noon games and go through the primetime games. But when I was writing the games down yesterday and this morning, I didn't write them down in that order, and I already went and made all my notes and everything. And honestly, I just didn't feel like redoing it. So they're a little out of order here. We're going to start with number 24, Michigan State on the road at Indiana. This game comes on 7:30 on the Big Ten Network, and Michigan State is a 4.5-point favorite. You can add Michigan State to the list of disappointments right alongside Michigan, Nebraska, Florida State, UCLA, Arkansas. I don't know what they're doing. How did they lose to Arizona State? I don't know. And then I was like, well, maybe Arizona State's pretty good, so I rode them last week, and then they had a head-scratching loss. So I don't know what's going on with Michigan State. Indiana's sitting at 3-0, but their best win is over Virginia, which is a lower-tier ACC team. So nothing too impressive for Indiana here. 4.5 points doesn't seem like a whole lot. I guarantee you this spread was a lot higher if you tried to bet it in the preseason, right? Michigan, because, I mean, Michigan State has, how many starters they got back from last year? 19 or 20? People were real high on Michigan State heading into this season before that disappointing loss to Arizona State. This was probably closer to a 2-touchdown line during the offseason. All the way down to 4.5 now. I think that's a little bit of an overreaction here. Now, I do think Michigan State is more pretender than they are contender. I don't think they are as good as people thought. I don't just think they had a bad game or something like that. Even their first game that they won, they really struggled against a terrible team. But I feel like 4.5 is a little bit of an overreaction against Indiana. I know it's on the road. Indiana primetime home dog here. But I just don't like them in this spot with this 4.5 number. I'm going to roll with the favorite in this one on the road. Give me Michigan State minus 4.5. All right, how about ACC versus Big Ten? One of the more surprising teams kind of from the ACC and one of the more disappointing teams from the Big Ten. Now, people who really pay attention, I don't think are all that surprised, but Boston College at Purdue. This game, 12 o'clock on ESPN2. Boston College is a 7-point favorite. Boston College off to a 3-0 start. Now, Boston College is a better team than your average fan thinks they are, and I talked about that a little bit during the offseason. I named a few teams that sort of seem to fly under the radar. In other words, if you walked up to your average football fan and asked about Boston College, not that good. They're better than most people's perception of them is, in my opinion. And they started out 3-0. Big road win last Thursday, right? Yeah, against Wake Forest in a game that got moved up due to the hurricane. So they're 3-0. They're taking on Purdue. Purdue is winless. That's unbelievable. Their coach was a hot name in the offseason. People really liked this Brom guy. I mean, no one expected Purdue to win the Big Ten or anything, but I don't think anybody saw an 0-3 start coming either. They lost to Missouri last week in a shootout type game. They put up like 500 yards passing, but lost. They also lost to Eastern Michigan. I mean, they just don't look like a good team here. And I'm buying Boston College. I like their running back situation at Boston College. They were a little sloppy last week with some turnovers and some penalties and some things like that, but I'm going to kind of chalk that up to the fact that it was a weird Thursday game. It got moved up to like a 5 o'clock start time, which is something you're just not used to doing as a college football player. You're just not used to playing at that time of day. So I'm going to chalk some of those miscues up to that. They did get the win, like I mentioned, 3-0. They're a 7-point favorite. I know it's on the road. I think they win by a little more than that, though. Give me Boston College, and I'll lay to 7. All right, at 3:30 over on ESPN2. FIU at Miami. You guys remember the first time they played? Was that 2006? The huge brawl. You remember that? Miami FIU play a huge brawl following an extra point or a field goal or something. Just a massive fight. 12-year anniversary of that coming up this year. FIU sitting at 2-1. Miami also at 2-1. Miami 26.5-point favorite in this one. 3:30 ESPN2, like I mentioned. I don't think FIU is a very good team. I think Miami. It's hard for me to put my finger on Miami right now, to be honest. They were pretty highly ranked coming into the season. Had expectations of winning the division and challenging Clemson for the ACC. They come out week 1 and lost in a game where they were favored. Now, fast forward to now. You know, it's one of those if we knew then what we know now type things. LSU, I think, is a lot better than what people thought, which makes that loss Miami took to LSU, I think, a lot more easier to stomach if you're a Miami fan. Now, you still played really bad in that game. Your quarterback situation is still sort of a mess, especially according to the fans. Most Miami fans that I talk to have pretty much had it with Malik Rozier, or Rozier, whatever it is, at this point. 26.5-point favorite, though. Miami is a way better team than FIU. You get them at home. Offense looked pretty good last week in a win against Toledo. Probably see more than one quarterback again in this game, I would imagine. I'm going to go with FIU, though. I don't think Miami wins this game by 26.5. 24 maybe. 44-20, something like that. I could see this game ending. Sort of taking a roll here, sort of taking a gamble here, but isn't that the point, though? Yeah, it is. Give me Florida International University, and I'll take every one of those 26 points and the half. All right, up next, Tulane at Ohio State. This one comes on 3:30 on the Big Ten Network. Ohio State ranked 4th and is a 37-point home favorite in this one. Good to see Ohio State getting back to their normal ways of scheduling sorry, pathetic, lower class teams that have no business being on the same field with Ohio State. Congratulations for stepping up and playing TCU last week in a neutral site game that you barely won. But now you're back to playing teams that honestly hardly know what they're doing. I mean, Oregon State, Rutgers. Rutgers, by the way, got beat by Kansas 55-7. So how good really was Ohio State's win over Rutgers? Not very good. Oregon State, one of the worst teams in the Power 5 for the last few years. You gave up 31 to them. But so good to see you getting back to that, though, and not having to mess around with the TCUs of the world anymore. Lucky for you, you get Tulane at home. You're a 37-point favorite. This is the return of Fred Sanford. Yeah, that's right. Urban Meyer makes his return to the sidelines in this game. Now he's been with the team for a week or two during practice. He just wasn't allowed to go to the game last week at TCU and stand on the sideline, but he'll be back 100% this week. He'll get a huge ovation by this crowd for sure because, all they care about is football. They don't care how much of a degenerate Urban Meyer is. But anyway, I digress because that's neither here nor there for the purposes of this video. Give me Ohio State late of 37. Clemson at Georgia Tech. Wow, 3:30 ABC. The Taters versus the Nerds. Listen, if the Taters want to, they can make this a home game. Georgia Tech doesn't support their team. They can't sell out a game. Normally, the only home game they sell out is once every 2 years when they play Georgia at home and the Bulldogs buy up all the tickets. Nobody cares about Georgia Tech in Atlanta. They're not trying to go to that game. Clemson not that far of a ride for you. If you're looking to get to a cheap game this year, this will be a good one to do it, and you're guaranteed to win. Now, I've asked every Clemson fan I know this week, do Uncle Lou a favor, please. Taters, make this your Syracuse game from last year, please. Listen, it won't matter. You're still going to go 11-1 and ride high into Charlotte for the ACC championship game. It's not going to matter if you lose a meaningless game, just like it didn't matter last year when you lost on the road to Syracuse. I need Paul Johnson to have a win in the worst possible way. I need Paul Johnson to keep his job, and the natives in Atlanta are starting to get really, really restless. I was over at Pep Boys the other day, and everybody in there is mad at Paul Johnson. I don't understand it. But anyway, if there's any way, Taters, you can go ahead and lay an egg in this game. Uncle Lou would owe you. Uncle Lou would really appreciate that also, and in addition to that, as well. Unfortunately, I don't see that happening. Georgia Tech's offense hasn't really gotten going yet this year. Lost to South Florida, lost to Pitt last week. Looks really, really bad. Clemson's got a great front seven with a lot of speed. That's not a good recipe for success if you're a Georgia Tech fan. 16.5 points. I like that number if I'm a Tater. And this week I am, even though I wish they would lose. I'll take the Taters. Late of 16.5, though. All right, how about Notre Dame at Wake Forest? Would the real Notre Dame team please stand up? Is the Notre Dame team the team we saw week 1 pretty much have their way with Michigan? Or is Notre Dame the team we've seen the last couple of weeks that drove the struggle bus to one-score wins over Ball State and a 2-point miracle win, really, over Vandy in a game where Notre Dame got completely outplayed for the majority of the game, and Vanderbilt honestly looked like the better team and should have won that game. This game comes on noon on ABC. Notre Dame rides into Wake Forest as a 7.5-point favorite. I'm looking for Notre Dame to really snap back to reality this week. I think last week was a wake-up call for Notre Dame. I'm not high on Notre Dame this year. I'm not convinced they're a top 10 team. I know they're undefeated. They have to play at Virginia Tech later. Yeah, wake me up when that game comes around. But 7.5 doesn't seem like enough points to me to a below-average ACC team like Wake Forest. I mentioned Wake Forest losing last week to Boston College. Now, Wake Forest had a couple extra days to prepare for this game because they played on Thursday, but they were in the midst of that hurricane situation, so a little bit of distraction there too. So that may negate any advantage you normally would get from having a couple extra days to prepare. And I think the coaches probably took advantage of that time, hold themselves up in an office or whatever, studying film, that type of thing for an extra day or two. I just think Notre Dame is more than a touchdown better than Wake Forest, even if it's on the road. Give me Notre Shame and the Golden Homers. And I'll lay to 7.5. All right, and probably the game of the week here. Now, Stanford at Oregon. This game, 8 o'clock ABC. Stanford ranked number 7, Oregon ranked number 20. Stanford comes in as a 2-point favorite. Is Bryce Love healthy? That's really the main question heading into this game. He left the Southern Cal game in the fourth quarter a couple of weeks ago with an undisclosed injury. Then he sat out last week in their win over UC Davis, I think it was, a team you've never heard of. And I'm going to tell you right now, they could not run the ball last week against something called UC Davis. They need Bryce Love in the worst possible way. I mentioned this a few weeks ago about Bryce Love. This guy can't stay healthy. Now, he rarely misses games, but even if you look back to last year, this guy was dinged up in almost every single game that he played. Still got to 2,000 yards. The guy's an unbelievable talent. There's no denying that. But he can't stay away from the infirmary ward. Now, Shaw, coach at Stanford, is saying that Bryce Love is ready to go. He'll practice normal all week and be good to go for this game on Saturday at Oregon. But you really don't know, and when you're looking at this game, now you can't believe anything these coaches say. You really don't know what's going to happen with. Now, there's no doubt in my mind they'll send him out there to play, but you really don't know what you're going to get here until we see him play. At Oregon, not an easy place to play. Oregon's got a lot of talent. Say what you want about Willie Taggart, and Lord knows he has fell flat on his face in Tallahassee, but he recruited some talent up there to Eugene. They have looked pretty good so far this year. That's probably one of the best home field advantages in the Pac-12, Oregon. You put Washington in that category too if you want to. I'm a Bryce Love fan. It's hard for me. You can't rely on the guy. This is a tough one to pick here. This honestly could go either way. I do think Bryce Love is the best player on the field if he's healthy, and in close games, I like to lean towards that. In terms of a pick, I can't do it. I gotta take the home team, even though they're a sometimes sorry football team.
Forget 100% committed. I'm 1,000% committed. I do not care. I'm riding high on this sometimes sorry college football team.
Give me Oregon and I'll take the 2 points. Okay, this game interests me here, and I know both these teams have been disappointing, and I think I referred to this game earlier as the Disappointment Bowl. But Nebraska goes on the road to play Michigan. Michigan's ranked 19th. This game comes on noon on Fox Sports 1, and Michigan is a 19-point favorite. Nebraska has got to win a game at some point, do they not? They're not going to go winless. I mean, they didn't look this bad last year without Scott Frost. Quarterback, a young guy that they really liked there, got hurt week 1. He's missed some time now. Supposedly he's practicing this week. It's sort of like a Bryce Love situation. You know how this goes. You can't really believe what the coaches say. You're going to have to wait until this game kicks off and see if he's out there playing. And if he is, can he run around? 19 points. Can Michigan even score 19? Yeah, they can. But you know what? I think it might do Nebraska some good to get out of Lincoln. They've really stunk it up there in their first few games of the year. I mean, they've really just looked terrible. Michigan unimpressive too, though. These are two teams that I said I'm never picking either of these teams again because they've made me look like fools. And here I am now. I have to pick one of them. Give me the 19 points. I'll ride with the black shirts. Black shirt. No, you got to earn that name. Give me the corn shuckers. Kansas State at West Virginia. West Virginia, 16-point favorite. They're ranked 12. This game comes on 3:30 on ESPN2. Man, did Kansas State barely beat South Dakota and then get killed by Mississippi State? Yep, they sure did. West Virginia's rolling to they're undefeated, big win over Tennessee. They had a game canceled last week, too, against NC State, which is a shame. I would have liked to have seen that game to get a better idea of where West Virginia is at in terms of overall talent, how their team looks. Can't judge much from a win over Tennessee. Let's just be real. I like West Virginia at home in this game. I was low on Kansas State in the offseason. I caught a ton of flack from a lot of you Big 12ers too, and really you guys owe me some apologies. They look terrible this year, and I was high on West Virginia. I haven't seen anything to make me think I was wrong. 16 is a good number here to take for a favorite at home, especially. Give me the couch burners, and I'll lay the 16 point. Texas Tech at Oklahoma State. How many points will be scored in this game? I tell you what, take the over in this game too. That's a bonus bet for you there, courtesy of Uncle Lou. Take the over. I don't care what it is. If it's 110, take the over. Texas Tech at Oklahoma State. Oklahoma State ranked 15th. They're a 13-point favorite. This game comes on 7 o'clock on Fox Sports 1. Oklahoma State had a big win last week against Boise State. A lot of people thought Boise State was going to go into Stillwater and pull the upset. Didn't happen. Oklahoma beat them 40-something to 20-something. Pretty dominating performance, honestly, by Oklahoma State. Texas Tech has no defense at all. Surprise. They're in the Big 12, I know. Shocker. That's not breaking news. I mean, that's not even fake news. That's not even alternative facts. I mean, that's just the reality that we're in. But yeah, there will be a ton of points scored in this. Texas Tech has scored 47, 77, and 63 points in their 3 games. So, I mean, there's 150 points, 160 points they've scored in 3 games so far. That's Alabama-type numbers. Now, their defense, like I mentioned, is completely horrible. Oklahoma State, 13-point favorite. No, this will be a shootout. Last person with the ball wins. Give me Texas Tech. I do want the 13 points, though, and 2. All right, just a few more games here. I'm going to try to get through these as quick as I can. These top 25, there's so many games, these things that take forever. But you got number 17th ranked TCU goes on the road to face Texas. TCU, a 3.5-point favorite. This game, 4:30 on Fox. I think this will be a good game. I really do. Now, Texas, one of those teams that I wrote off, after they lost to Maryland for the 2nd year in a row. I don't understand what's going on there. TCU, real emotional game last week against Ohio State. They had the lead for a long time, lost it in the end. Ended up losing by about 12. Ohio State picked up a late touchdown there to sort of pull away. This one's at Texas. I like Texas in this game. I don't have any rhyme or reason why. It's a gut feeling here. Someone cried in the comment section yesterday that all I ever do is pick the favorites, which is ridiculous. Not only do I take underdogs with the points constantly, but I picked 2 or 3 outright upsets a week. I mean, I picked Syracuse over Florida State last week. I picked Pitt over Georgia Tech. Both of those were underdogs. Week 1, I picked Texas or Ole Miss over Texas Tech. That was an upset. So anyway, but here you go. To whoever that was, get your Kleenex, dry your nose, dry your eyes, blow your nose. Give me Texas. I'll take the 3.5 points though. Army at Oklahoma. Oklahoma, of course, ranked 5th. This game comes on 7 o'clock, but I don't think this is on TV. If it is, I couldn't find it, unless maybe you're in the, it could be a regional thing if you're in Oklahoma, but I don't think this game is nationally televised. If I'm wrong, please, Sooner Ace or RJ or anybody that is watching, let us know in the comment section if this game is on TV. I couldn't find it. But Army at Oklahoma. Oklahoma, a 32-point favorite. Give me Oklahoma. Listen, last week they didn't cover, and that was a little disappointing to me. I thought they would show up for that game against Iowa State, considering what happened the previous year when they got humiliated by a backup quarterback. They did beat Iowa State, but not very impressive. But you go back to the 2 weeks before that, they completely dominated inferior teams. That's what Army is. No disrespect to Army, but compared to Oklahoma, let's just get real. Talent gap too big. I'll take Oklahoma. They're going to win this game a lot to a little. Virginia Tech at Old Dominion. How good is Virginia Tech? Nobody knows. I mean, you thought they were good the way they handled Florida State week 1. Now you look at Florida State now and you say, Jesus Christ, Helen Keller University could have beat Florida State. But yeah, Virginia Tech at Old Dominion. Why are you playing a game at Old Dominion? What are you doing? 3:30 on CBS Sports Network, not regular CBS, but CBS College Sports Network. Virginia Tech's a 27.5-point favorite. I don't know how good Virginia Tech is, but I'm a believer in what I've seen so far. I'm going to take Virginia Tech here and lay the 27.5. I mentioned this before, I like having right under a touchdown number. So, of course, 28 would be 4 touchdowns. I can see Virginia Tech winning the game by more than that. I'll take the Hokies. I found out what that is, by the way. I guess it's some sort of a turkey. You could have fooled me. I thought a Hokie was like a... to be honest, I thought a Hokie was like somebody who lived in a house with a dirt floor and maybe spoke broken English. I mean, that was what I thought. Apparently, it's a turkey. Give me Virginia Tech. Lay the 27.5, though. Now, this might be a good game here. Wisconsin at Iowa. Wisconsin ranked 18th. This game comes on 8:30 on Fox. Wisconsin's a road favorite, 3-point favorite in this game. Wisconsin, maybe they're not as good as everybody thought. Now, they got a ton of people back, too. Of course, they got Jonathan Taylor, who I still think is the best running back in America, despite their loss last week to BYU or whatever. Iowa, one of those teams that people say, oh, be careful going on the road at Iowa. I don't understand these Big 12 and Big 10 people who think we really take you seriously when you try to convince people that it's hard to play at Iowa or at Iowa State. I don't get it. What I think it is Iowa State and Iowa are just sort of, they're vanilla programs, like vanilla ice cream. I mean, they don't, who hates vanilla ice cream? Nobody. But who gets excited about it? Not very many people. And so I think Big 12 and Big 10 people, they just, they don't really worry about Iowa and Iowa State, so they're just sort of nice to them, and they're like, oh, well, but they have a good home field advantage. You don't just stroll into Iowa and walk out with a win. Listen, no one is afraid to play at Iowa. That should be the case for Wisconsin, too. I don't like this is on the road at night. But Wisconsin, I don't know what happened last week until I'm proven wrong, I'm going to pretend that what happened last week to Wisconsin was the same thing that happened last year to Clemson when they went to Syracuse, to Oklahoma when they played Iowa State, and to Georgia when they played Alabama. And, it's just the better team just didn't win that particular day. I'm still on the Wisconsin train. Give me Wisconsin. You can have the 3 points. Arizona State at Washington. Upset alert. I don't think it'll happen, though. I wish Arizona State would have won last week. It would have made this game even more interesting to have both these teams undefeated, but Arizona State does have the one loss. So does Washington, losing to Auburn in the Chick-fil-A Classic or whatever that was to open the season. This game, 10:30 on ESPN. Arizona State, or Washington, ranked 10th. Actually, they're tied with 10th. Tied for 10th with, who else was 10th? Gosh, I'll never find it now with this mess of notes I got. Is it Virginia Tech? Anyway, it doesn't matter. They're tied for 10th, though. Washington is a 17-point favorite. I think this will be a close game, and to be honest, I would not be shocked if Arizona State shows up there and wins the game. If this game was in Arizona State, I'd probably pick them to win outright, but I think they keep this game closer than what a lot of people think. Give me Arizona State, but I do want the 17 points. All right, that's it. I appreciate you guys watching. That's the preview for all the top 25 games this week with picks against the spread for each and every game. As you guys know, I pick about 50 or 60 games a week. I mean, I do all the SEC games, all the top 25 games, and then I do another 10 or 15 games on Thursday that don't fit in either of those categories. Then I pick 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 games a week, something like that, lose locks of the week. And normally I include those at the end of both videos, but I didn't do it in the SEC video yesterday, and I'm not doing it today. I haven't really decided which of these games I want to include as my locks yet. What I'm going to do, though, is today at the 3 o'clock show, we do a live show every Monday, Wednesday, and Friday at 3. 3 o'clock today, though, I'll tell you who my locks are so far. So I'll go back over my SEC picks and my top 25 picks. I'll pick out a few locks from each list, and I'll let you know what those are on a live show today at 3, and I'll include it on the crawl on the bottom of the screen of that live show. And then when I do the video tomorrow, the last preview video of the week where I go through the rest of the games that I want to talk about, I will, again, let you know what all the locks are for the SEC to top 25 and tomorrow's picks as well. Thanks for watching. Subscribe to the channel if you're not already. I post college football videos almost every single day of the year. Sometimes they're even watchable and make a little bit of sense. Thumbs up this video, share it with your friends, and I'll see you guys soon. Have a great morning.